If we compare Australian gardens with those centuries old from around the world, then our gardens appear quite young. But here at Albion Farm, near the hamlet of Woodville, not far from Maitland in New South Wales, we're going to explore a landscape with links to the pioneers who opened up this land just a decade or so after settlement at the end of the 18th century. This fertile place, once home to the Gringai clan of the Wanura Aboriginal peoples, has been enriched by regular floodwaters for eons. The first settlers spent long days of back-breaking work to clear this land for food production. And whilst it's still used for productive purposes today, part of it has been handed over to an extraordinary garden, an inspired Australian garden. "200 years ago, Maitland was the largest settlement outside Sydney. Albion Farm's river flats were amongst some of the most productive, supplying crucial food for the new colony. And the Patterson and Hawkesbury rivers provided the best access for produce and people. I'm about to meet the current owners, Phillip and Sandy Redman, who, along with their family, still grow food on this historic site. I'd like to know what's inspired them, if they've realised their dreams." Hello Sandy, lovely to meet you.
I do the hard landscaping and Sandy comes behind doing the softening up bit. And up to this year, we managed to be able to be the gardeners, just the two of us. And now Kate's helping us 3 days a week, it's great. And then on Friday mornings, we have somebody who comes in to teach us how to do topiaries.
But so that's really only the only help you have is someone just
You'd be
trimming the
surprised the
hedges.
number of friends that will come in and give you a hand with heavy duty stuff.
So you spend a lot of time abroad?
Prior to this, we had 3 years in Indonesia. And prior to that, we had 3 years in Hong Kong.
We married in Hong Kong, Sandy.
And we married in Hong Kong. And then prior to that, we had time in London and England and Ireland.
And has all of that influenced your garden design and the concepts you bring into Albion Farm and the adjoining properties?
Look, I think subconsciously things influence us. We might say we think of something, we think it's original thought, but really we've seen it somewhere else and just stored it. But when we find an idea that's useful, well, it could have come from Sissinghurst or Chatswood.
And they have.
And they have.
But
yeah.
I do think that since we've been gardeners full-time for 15, 16 years, and as full-time gardeners, we've searched for ideas, we've visited other gardens, we've travelled and looked, and every garden's exciting. You come back from any garden, you've got a new idea.
Working out who does what in a garden can sometimes create tension. But after our chat, I've gathered the Redmans seem fairly comfortable with their roles. Phillip has the macro vision, and Sandy adds the aesthetics.
We came here in 1972. First thing we did was to plant the orchard. Then in the first 2 years we had a series of floods, and not infrequently does it go underwater. And it has brought a lot of good soil in over the years.
Constant rejuvenation.
And by the time it's dissipated, and we picked up the big bits, the logs and things that float in, and then we get onto the lawnmowers and you wouldn't even know we'd had a flood.
So of the 15 acres of garden that we would have with the 3 blocks, there'd probably only be about 5 acres out of water in a big flood. So that's why we've learnt to specialise in bog gardens and water gardens. When you create a dam for wildlife, unless you are aware of what it does to the bank, you get erosion everywhere. So you see the dry stone wall look and the bog Pseudochorus iris planted on the bank, and that's specifically to solve the problem of erosion. Because birds will walk the bank and work the bank and crayfish will get in there. Slowly it creeps back. This way we can mow right to the edge and know it's going to stay.
Sandy brings an eye for detail and softening touches. I'm not surprised she loves the wisterias.
Within our garden, we have 16 varieties and over 100 actual vines. And we grow them on the umbrella because it's a wonderful way to display them. It's easy for pruning and we can keep them compact. The wheels are old cart wheels from farms off harvesters, and we just provide the pole and away we go.
Fantastic. Oh, it's to great effect.
It is very attractive. It's so beautiful when it's just all purple.
While there are various wisterias flowering from early spring, the roses also make a great impact at this time.
These, Eamonn, are La Sevillana. They've only been in about 4 years because standard roses here, they don't seem to last the distance. But these, they're just doing beautifully. We're really pleased with these.
From the heady fragrance of the rosary, we're going to head down to see where the irises are growing. I hear there are some extra special ones to see. This is a wonderfully secluded spot on the far side of the lakes, and I particularly like the bamboo. I mean, obviously that reminds you of your time in Asia.
Yes, it does. They're all clumping varieties, and it has a totally different atmosphere to the rest of the garden.
And I suppose one of the benefits of having so much water in the garden is the ability to grow these Louisiana iris. Tell me a bit about those.
Well, there is one very special Louisiana here, named after Sandy. Heather and Bernard Pryor bred it especially, and it has a lovely red terracotta look.
Oh, it's got a lovely depth of colour, doesn't it?
It does.
Sandy, that's pretty special, having that named after you.
I was just so amazed and delighted.
And Sandy, do you enjoy playing with the colour combinations?
Well, yes, I'd like to have a little more control over the colour combinations. They seem to do their own thing, but they are beautiful. And the purple, the depth of that deep blue is just fabulous in here.
While the irises do well either in or near water, lotus like to be immersed in it and multiply rapidly. So I think they might do well here.
If you look at the concept of these lotus gardens, which you'll see from the air, it's shaped like a flower.
Right.
And each petal has got a different coloured lotus. And they're just emerging now, so they're a summer flowering thing. And you don't see it from this level. You move into it, and the flowers will be 1 metre above the water. It's quite spectacular. So each pond, separated by dry land or by a pipe that's 200 mil higher than the water level next door. So there are 7 varieties of lotus, all designed to look like the petals of a flower, but all different colours.
From the lotus ponds, we head over to another favourite and atmospheric place. Rocks and wending gravel paths are reminiscent of the work of a renowned Australian designer. This is a very special part of the garden which is inspired by Edna Walling's work with her curved dry stone walls and soft plantings. Do you enjoy her gardens?
Well, certainly we have, and we've tried to introduce as much dry stone walling as we can.
And the soft plantings you see here of the forget-me-nots and violas and the Kenilworth ivy, just classically Edna Walling.
There's so much to explore in this garden. There's a folly and apparently a secret garden. Follies are fun. They're the ultimate in indulgence, in frivolity, serving no other purpose than to transport the viewer to a fanciful landscape. Thankfully, we can incorporate follies like this just for pleasure. We can make them over the top. This one could be anywhere in the world, but the inclusion of so many historical references serves as a link to Australia's history, not Roman ruins. This one has so much memorabilia that's been incredibly well incorporated. The stonework, the ironwork. The ruins have so many exits that lead us to the driveway, the rosary, and the wisteria walks. Philip, this is a very pleasing grove between Albion Farm and Gracemere. Are they conifers?
Yes, they are. They're a variety of taxodium called mucronata, and they are deciduous. And the leaves stay on all winter until the spring growth pushes them off. And this mucronata, they love the swamp. They don't have the big knees, which would trouble the lawnmowers. And they were given to me by a great plants person called Bob Cherry. And it is a special spot.
And Philip, the grove really is a perfect link between the two gardens. And I like the balance you've created between plantings and open spaces.
I like also the way it continues into the distance with the rural landscape and the eucalypts, typical Australian landscape.
As the sun sets on this beautiful garden in a bucolic setting, I'm left to reflect on what has motivated the family to create such a sanctuary, especially on this scale. I know there'll be a lot more to explore in the morning. I'm looking forward to it. It's my second day here, and I've come to explore more of the gardens, including the productive areas. But first, I'd like to catch Jed Corrin, the Redman son-in-law. Jed's a surgeon and starts work early, but either on his way to work or on his way home, he often throws a line into the lake. And today, he's promised to help catch dinner. So Jed, you're in a special situation here living with the family and the extended families close by. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, well, it's certainly a nice place to be, and it's certainly a nice place to raise a family. And being here is a nice sanctuary away from a busy professional life.
And are you down here normally of a morning before work, or
Yeah,
when's the favourite time?
Often on the way out or on the way in, and that's when the fish will bite, usually last thing in the evening or first thing in the morning. And there's always a good chance of picking up dinner. This dam's actually very well stocked with native fish. There's probably over 2,000 Australian bass in here, as well as some silver perch as well, along with the odd angry native eel, and hopefully not too many carp. But the main prize are the bass, really. They're so much fun to catch. One of the things we did early on was stock it with freshwater mussels, and they've really multiplied. We've probably put 100 mussels in, and we think now there's probably a few 100,000 in there. And, yeah, they're filter feeders, so they really improve the quality of the water by themselves. And they also provide food for water birds and that sort of thing. So all in all, it's extremely healthy.
I've left Jed to concentrate on the important job of catching dinner, and now I'd better get moving, because I think Phillip has plans. He wants to show me how they managed to make such a productive garden also ornamental and aesthetically pleasing.
Well, these are all table grapes, so there are 8 varieties of table grapes here. They're very productive.
And what do you do with the excess?
Share it with the birds, share it with the children, share it with everybody.
And there's also the fruit trees down on the lake.
That's the original orchard, and the survivors of the floodplain are mostly pomes, quinces, figs, things that are happy underwater, and the rest are all citrus.
There's a real farmyard aspect here that engages the grandchildren, and the chooks and doves seem to be happy in their home, between the veggie garden and the vineyard. Albion Farm has long been associated with growing crops and vegetables, and the Redmans still share farm many acres of alluvial river flats. But it's the vegetable garden within this garden which I'd like to explore next. I'm interested to see whether it's been relegated to the back box, or whether they've been able to create a potager garden, a blend of vegetables and flowers, attractive enough to be incorporated with the rest of the garden. Phillip, tell me about some of the particular produce you grow in this kitchen garden.
Well, it's very seasonal. Our main vegetable garden during the summer's on the riverbank for the corn and the pumpkins, melons, things like that. But this is very much a salad bowl for the house. And we've got, at the moment, well, we've got beetroot, we've got spinach, we've got carrots and parsnips, turnips. Then down there we've got all the globe artichokes. We tend to grow a few flowers in the garden as well. And the lettuce, which we're having tonight. Plenty of berries. And look around, it's everything. The brassicas are just finishing. There's plenty of broccoli and cabbage and Brussels sprouts on the top. And of course the broad beans, which the children are pulling now. Then on the other side we've got all our fruit trees. It's all together, but it's all very much a part of the garden.
What's great about this kitchen garden is that it feeds the family, and the grandchildren come and gather and pick the produce that they like the best. But I think more than that, it's fantastic that the kitchen garden's been integrated with the rest of the garden, and it's not hidden from view, but rather a focal point for Albion Farm Gardens. Kate and Jed respect Gracemere's heritage also. Their home is contemporary and stylish, but the site is historic. Kate's going to show me the original structures they've restored, as well as an additional veggie patch handy to their home. Tell me about this slab hut.
Built originally in the mid-1800s and has housed a family with 11 children with a very big skillion off the front. But Jed and I decided to restore the cottage to what we thought would have looked like when it was first built, and now use it as a garden shed.
So you couldn't imagine living in here?
With 11 children, not even with 5 children. No.
And did you do a lot of work on the house?
Well, yes, we timbered the outside and put in the stained glass windows. And Jed inside has a fish smoking area as well, so he can smoke his fish that he catches from the lake.
And Kate, there are other historic buildings on site?
Yes, there's a dairy and another old shed, and the dairy's now turned into a pig house. Oh, hello. Come and have a look at the dairy, Eamonn. This is now what was the dairy when we first arrived, and now is Sebastian's house. Sebastian's our miniature pig, and he's even got equipped with a little chandelier up there. The girls love Sebastian.
He lives in luxury.
Yeah, he sure does. Would you like to meet Sebastian?
I'd love to. Here he is.
This is Sebastian, part of our family. He arrived here about 8 or 9 months ago now. He's supposed to be a miniature pig, and he's
on the way up. The Corrins have 5 daughters. There's plenty to keep them occupied amongst the gardens. Probably by osmosis, these young girls will absorb skills and develop a passion for all things horticultural and for design. After chatting to Kate, I made my way over to the girls' cubby house. It's a must-see, they said, so I better not disappoint them. So Lizzie, where are you taking me?
Well, there's a tree house at the end of here that Papa and all the rest of us helped build, and it's really special to all of us, so I'd really like you to see it.
So Lizzie, am I allowed up?
Well, there's actually a secret password.
Oh really? Can you tell me it? After you. Oh, Lizzie, look at this.
This is where we sleep. Well, where one of us sleeps, and then the other person sleeps down there.
And are you in charge of the house with all your sisters?
No.
Who's in charge up here?
Well, I'm the interior designer. She's the architect.
Philip, your granddaughters are very lucky to have this tree house.
Well, Liz, she's already pointed out to you that she was the architect, and she has a deadline. She wanted the tree house. So we started building it in front of the stables and in my workshop, mostly heavy materials and steel, and we kept adding to it, recycling more materials. And the interior designer, that's Lucy, she got involved. Finally, we thought we'd bring it over, and I couldn't lift it. Couldn't lift it with the forks. We got a crane and put it on a hay trailer. And it was quite an amazing sight coming through the farm and coming up the hill. First of all, you only saw the tree house coming, and lifted it onto these 4 posts. So it's the first stage. They're now determining for the next stage. They want a crow's nest, but we think Annie needs to be a bit older before we go up higher.
That's right.
They do get a lot of pleasure from it. I got a lot of pleasure from building it.
I'm glad to hear it. And the pink interior, was that your touch?
Oh, no, that's Lucy. She's the interior designer. The pink hearts, well, the heart's the signature that I use on anything that I build. And it was the pink glass, that's Lucy. It was a combination. A lot of people got involved in this.
Perhaps one of the greatest features of this garden here at Gracemere is this stunning man-made lake, surrounded by swathes of yellow water iris. On the far side, the focal point is clearly the boathouse. Surrounded by exotic and endemic planting, it looks like it's been here forever. Well, the boathouse has well and truly drawn me in, occupying such a prominent spot on the lake. Its unique combination of bluestone and sandstone, combined with the retrofitted Chinese doors and lunette window, I can certainly see it's the work of our master stonemason, Philip. And when you see at the top his signature, the heart, you can tell it's a contemporary building. Not many can boast about having a beautiful boathouse in their garden, even if its original purpose was to house the pump. Now I've viewed that, I'm off to find Phillip and Kate and see what marvels they're creating. So the grand plan you talk about for Gracemere, who established that? Was that a collaborative effort?
Well, I guess historically I've been on this bit of land for a long time when the old people owned it, and because I rented it for horses. And I always had an idea of what would happen after it fell into the right hands. I was just lucky that Kate and Jed decided this is where their home was going to be. We don't always agree on all matters, but when it comes to Gracemere, we've both got the same focus. Only that Kate would like to get things finished, and I like to just pace myself.
You do like to start one project and then
I've
keep
got
going.
so many good ideas for down there that I'm anxious to get on with it. And of course, weather changes things. If we get a dry spell, I can drop the level of that dam and put that other wall in. But we've got probably a dozen projects on the job.
We have finished a lot this year, though.
We have. Yeah, well, because you put pressure on.
It's great to see skills passed on, and to see a father and daughter's project that future generations will reflect on, and no doubt with pride. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure spending time with the Redman family in their delightful gardens. I've been fortunate enough to be invited to dinner tonight in a part of the garden that I'm yet to see, affectionately known by the grandchildren as the secret garden.
Here they come, here they come.
Phillip, how are you? Great to see you. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, welcome, and please join us.
Thank you. The entire meal tonight has been taken from fresh produce grown in the vegetable gardens at Albion Farm, and the fish has been taken from the lakes. Thank you. I thought I'd seen most of the garden, but not this secret spot. I'm looking forward to seeing it in the light tomorrow before I leave. It's my last day here. I've enjoyed the journey of discovery in a wonderful garden, but most of all, I've enjoyed seeing the family working together in it. They've met every challenge nature has presented. They've worked with water. It supplies the garden and draws in wildlife. It's now the heart of the gardens. Albion Farm's signature plant and the Redman's great love is wisteria. They are spectacularly displayed on Phillip's generous arbours. Albion Farm's veggie garden is amazing, as is the orchard. To think our dinner was all homegrown. And that's just the spring bounty. There'll be plenty more in the summer, including from the vineyards. And I love the frivolity of having the cathedral-shaped arbour, or really more like a wisteria-laden chapel, right in the middle of the vineyards. The roses work well, both by the Federation Home and the contemporary residents. And the historical elements have been sensitively integrated. All the beautiful stonework, some carved and some, the tables by the lake, so natural. It all looks like it belongs here, especially the folly. The folly's fabulous. Arch windows add rhythm to the curved walls, and frame garden vignettes from both sides. The informal planting is a favourite, a flurry of flowers and quirky sculptures. Now let's see this secret garden in the daylight. No wonder Sandy loves escaping here. And I can imagine the grandchildren in here. It's a real fantasy land. Branches reach over the walls. There are shady nooks and sunny spots. It's sheltered, away from any wind, and filled with flowers, and pots, and ornamentation. An enchanted world. This garden is testament to the vision and commitment of Phillip, Sandy, and their family. 3 neighbouring gardens enjoyed as one continuum. Although this garden hasn't been professionally designed, it's clear that Phillip and Sandy have an innate design sense. Between them, they've created the perfect balance. A floriferous garden, brimful with colour and fragrance, gives onto quiet spaces and contemplative corners. Spaces have at once impact and intimacy. There's an easy flow through the garden. Paths take us through and reveal the next surprise. This garden is testament to the gardener's dreams, to their skills, to their artistic abilities, to their passion. But most of all, it stands as a tangible symbol of their mutual respect and admiration for each other. This garden retains a sense of place. It has a link to the past, which is so important in such a significant historical setting.